Coming up on Magical Medical Tour with my co-host, Dr. Glenn Woolman. Inside the Doctor's Bag, Patterns of Behavior. What are patterns of behavior? How do these get set in our lives? Can this be detrimental to our health? This and more coming up next here on YHTV. This week's episode is brought to you by Support the Mountains Herbal Parasite Cleanse. This formula targets the small and large intestinal tracts and larvae, the most broad-spectrum formula available today. 100% organic, formulated by Dr. Mikio Sankey, author of the Esoteric Acupuncture series. For 10% off your first bottle, visit shopyogahub.com and use the coupon code CLEANSE at checkout. Hello and welcome to YHTV's Magical Medical Tour. I'm Christina Suzuma, your co-host for this program. As we continue to touch upon Dr. Glenn Woolman's 6 aspects towards optimal health, and this is another one, patterns of behavior. That's pretty cool. And with us is Dr. Glenn Woolman to share with us on what that really is. Hello, Dr. Woolman.
Greetings, Christina, and greetings, everyone else. Welcome to Magical Medical Tour and a special aliquot of optimal health inside the doctor's bag. So we always talk about the 6 aspects of optimal health, and nobody ever talks about this one as an aspect. And I think it's probably the most important in terms of influencing all of the others. You know, when I talk about each one, I say nutrition. Oh, that's definitely the most important. Exercise. Oh, you can't do without that. That's really important. Stress management, probably even more important than anything else. Sleep management. We can't live without sleep management. That's the definite one. Spirituality. Who would argue that that's the most important? But I think in a way, patterns of behavior needs to be recognized as an aspect of optimal health, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So basically, we all know that we have, as humans and as a living organism, we have physiological patterns or patterns of physiology. So sleeping and waking, hunger, thirst, pH, acidity in the body, temperature control, all of these things are physiological patterns. The heart rate of 60 to 100 beats per minute is a pattern of physiology. Respirations of 16 to 20 in a normal person. Blood pressure changes. All of these things are patterns. Menstrual cycles. These are all physiological patterns that we have. But patterns of behavior is something that's learned, and we start learning this at a very early age. And the problem with this is sometimes when we're learning it at an early age, we don't really understand why we're learning it or what we're really learning. We're just taking it in and not assimilating it correctly. And in many cases, people that are in stressful lives where there's a family that's not happy together, a dysfunctional family, or separated families, places where there's arguments and stress and fear and violence, people will develop patterns of behavior for survival, not just for living and nurturing and nourishing and being healthy. Although there are many that we learn for being healthy, like looking both ways at an intersection or brushing your teeth after every meal. These are good patterns of behavior. But many of the things that we learn are stress and fear related at a time when we don't know why we're doing it, but we just develop these patterns. It might be a pattern where if your parents are fighting, you run into your room and you hide, or you go away somewhere. And what happens is that you actually survive. And by surviving, it gives feedback to you subconsciously that the pattern that you developed is a good one because it helped you to survive. What happens, though, is that as you grow up and understand certain things, you don't look at these as patterns, and you continue to use the same patterns for survival when you don't really need them anymore, and they're actually causing more harm than good. So the first thing we need to understand and agree to is to recognize that we are about patterns of behavior. And I point this out to people all the time. You put your socks on the same way, your shoes on, you get dressed the same way. Christina, you probably put your makeup, although you don't wear makeup, but because of your innate beauty. But other people that require it probably put it on the same way every time. You start your car the same way. You talk to people on a first date the same way. You look for partners the same way. If you are told your boss wants to see you, you go through patterns that might be fearful, thinking something's wrong when there might be nothing wrong. So first, we have to be aware that we are about patterns of behavior. Are you aware of that, Christina?
I don't think about it in the means of it's not always in my consciousness, but I know it happens because there are certain things that I know that I would do, and I'll go, "Oh my gosh, that's my father," or "Oh my gosh, that's my mother," or
Right.
it's because I'm relating to something, or even something my son will do. I'll go, "My goodness, where did you get that from? Because that's your uncle." It's like
Right.
it's like these patterns of reaction, or just it's not just about movement, but it's the way we react to something, or the way we approach a situation. It's very interesting, and I'll go, wow, that is definitely a trait that runs in my family. And then I look upon myself and go, boy, do I really do that, because somehow it's bled into my child.
Right. Yeah, I wonder where he got that from. No,
Right.
these patterns we do all the time. And one of the reasons we have patterns is because it allows us not to think about things. Once we develop a pattern, then we can do that thing and think about other things at the same time. In other words, you don't need to sit and think, okay, how do I hold my sock to put it on? And how do I put my foot into the sock? And how do I pull it up? Or how do I grab a bar of soap and wash myself? Or how do I put the toothpaste on my toothbrush? And what tooth do I brush first? All of these are patterns that we've developed so that we don't have to think about them, and we can be thinking about other things. So if I have to do a talk today, I can brush my teeth while I'm thinking about the talk. But this is where actual mindfulness comes in, because we've taken it to such a degree with our patterns that we're not really appreciating things anymore. We know that we have to sit down and eat because eating is nutritional and it's social and it's necessary, but we end up watching television when we're eating, or studying for something, whereas sometimes mindfulness and getting us back into why we're doing something and what we're doing and honoring it is very important. And that's one of the reasons that understanding patterns of behavior is so important in terms of optimal health, because we have many patterns that are good for us, and we have some patterns that are not helping us, and we don't even realize that. So after recognizing a pattern, the key then is to realize and acknowledge and analyze the fact that this is not a good pattern. So if your pattern for sleeping is every night you go to bed at the same time and you get a great night's sleep, that's a good pattern. But if your pattern is every night just before you go to bed, you do an hour of exercise, you drink a cup of coffee, and you have a bag of Cheetos or something that may not be too nutritional for you. Nothing against Cheetos. But that may not be a good pattern, and you don't understand why the next morning you're not feeling well, you're bloated, you're overweight, your diabetes is being talked about with you and your doctor, and you have to recognize that this is a bad pattern. So then after you recognize it and you want to change it, you have to come up with a plan of a new pattern. And this is the most difficult. And this has to do with, I always talk about going from intellect to consciousness. When you intellectually know that it's not a good idea to drink a large cup of coffee before you go to bed, or for most people, some people it could be fine. Well, there's always the exceptions to the rule. But if you know that, then you have to come up with something new and something that you can sustain. So, for example, if you decide, well, you want to drink something, but instead change it to a glass of water, that may be good for you. And then after you change it, at some point you have to go back and look again and analyze to see if you've reverted back to your old pattern, because it's a very strong pattern. It's something you really want to do. And after about 3 days of water, you suddenly go, I think I'll have some coffee tonight. And then you're back to your old pattern. So that's a very important part of it. Aside from recognizing it, analyzing it to determine it's bad, changing it with something that you can actually do, and then recognizing that you haven't gone back to it. That's part of the key to patterns of behavior. And in each of the different aspects, when I work with someone as a medical guide, if I'm working with someone who's a type 2 diabetic and overweight and has high blood pressure, and we're trying to work with them to change their nutritional habits to get them into a process, patterns of behavior, especially in terms of eating, are really critical. So to get someone to change, they have to recognize it. So that's the key. You have to go from understanding, oh yeah, I understand this is wrong, but I still love it. And that's where the work comes in. And it's very interesting to find the uniqueness in each individual as to how to get them to recognize a pattern, be willing to change it, and stick with that change. So I have any thoughts on that before I give you a little?
Yeah, I mean, would it behoove people to make a conscious effort to change up? Like, for example, instead of using a bar soap, use a liquid soap. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so your brain has to think about it and take notice in your daily events. Like instead of using a fork and spoon, let's use chopsticks tonight, you know?
Yeah.
Right. Because I would think that because we would have to change our physical of how we approach something, that it would also do something with our brain.
All connected. Definitely,
Yeah.
you're right. You're on the right track.
Maybe heightens an awareness for us on.
That's the first key. Be aware that everything is about patterns. So one of the things I would like everyone to do is just think in the bathroom. For example, Christina, do you take a bath or a shower?
Shower.
Pattern of behavior. Do you take it in the morning or at night?
Always at night. Oh,
always
no,
at
not
night.
always. No, I time
Mostly
out.
at night. Right.
Definitely
Anytime.
at night, but now
Right.
and then during the day or in the morning. Yes.
Sure. Pattern of behavior. So when you get in, do you shampoo your hair at the beginning or the end?
If I do wash my hair, it would be at the
If you
beginning.
wash your hair.
Yes.
If you wash your hair.
Yeah.
Which one?
If I do, it would be at the beginning.
Right. And are you right-handed or left-handed?
Now that's something I'm very conscious about. I'm
Okay.
right-handed, but I do
lot of
attempt to
things
do a
with the
lot
left.
with my left hand.
Right.
Because
So you
I've seen what
probably-
happens. I work with elders, and I see what happens as you get older. It's like they
Yeah, you're right.
almost don't even use their their non-dominant side anymore, and it's like, come on, you got to do this, you know.
Yeah, that's why I love martial arts, because they require you to do things with both hands. That's
Both
why I like
hands.
playing the piano, because it requires you doing things with both hands. But probably tonight, when you take your shower, just think about it. You probably grab the soap and you start on the exact same part of your body every time.
No, I
And you-
actually don't.
Yes, you do. I know
No,
you do.
I don't.
Okay.
I
Okay.
don't. There's a reason why.
Okay.
The-
Let's hear it. No, it's great. I
because-
love that.
Yeah, because you know how I say about the left hand. You know, it's like that's if I start with it's a yeah. I don't actually. I did
Okay,
for
well,
a
you're
long
the
time. I think you must have influenced me sometime back when we were talking about this before.
I've never
where
been
you
in
said,
a shower with you, so let's be very clear on that.
"Oh, well, oops." No, I'm just kidding.
And I would
Um,
argue with you. I see you do it the same way every time.
Oh, Okay.
So
Yeah.
no, you're right. And, but in most cases, you can look at many of the things you do, cooking, uh,
Yes.
walking through the house, your ritual when you wake up in the morning. We all have patterns of
Oh, yes,
behavior, and the
absolutely.
more that you're conscious of it. So the thing for me, as the assignment for today in your aliquot for optimal health and learning about patterns of behavior, is everybody should pick a pattern of something. Say something with your toothbrush. Do you squeeze it from the bottom up to the top? Where do you put it? Do you put it at the top of the toothbrush down, or from the bottom up? Do you start with one specific tooth and go through the whole process, or any other
Mm-hmm.
thing that you do as a pattern of behavior? Recognize it, and then see, just as an experiment, try and change it.
Mm-hmm.
Just try and change the way you brush your teeth each night. And again, see how long it takes you subconsciously before you're back in the old pattern and you recognize, oh wow, I'm back to the old pattern again. And this is really important because this is what happens with people that are trying to change serious patterns of behavior that are causing illness and injury that are
Mm.
not good, because you simply go back into your old pattern again without even recognizing it. So one of the things I would love to have people do that are watching or listening to our show is, if you have a unique way of changing a pattern of behavior, of recognizing it, finding a new one, changing it, and sustaining it, we'd love to know that. So send us an email, give us a call, make a comment. Um, Love to know that, because you may have uh, a specific way of doing it that would be really helpful to many other people. In my work as a medical guide, I can't give everybody the same prescription of how to change a pattern, because everyone is so
Mm-hmm.
unique.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
that would be a fun thing. So if
that
you
would be
have
fun.
a different way, let us know.
That would be fun. Hmm.
That would be fun. So for
Yeah.
me, patterns of behavior, aliquot of optimal health. It's been great. Love it. And until next time, Christina, I wish you and Segovia and all of our audience around the world optimal health.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Glenn Woolman. That's fun. Now, I think I'm going to close the show different. No. Goodbye, everyone. No, just kidding.
That's great. Wait, I'll close the show. Let's let Segovia close the show.
That would be hilarious. Yes. Actually, why
That
don't
would
you close the show? There you go.
right. Hey, call us, get in touch with us, like us, Facebook, all the stuff. Let's talk, reply. I'm trying to remember all the things that you do in your pattern. We love you. Thank you for supporting us. We'll see you again next week. And namaste.
Yay! Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Until next time, namaste.